1589 Lowered Head. 1589 Lowered Head. The Central Emperor realm had the most and the strongest forces, and the sky-reaching school occupied a place all its own. The divine mansion upon the sky-reaching peaks that the Sky River Great Elder and Yi Futian had arrived at was the sky-reaching school. The vice-hierophant of the sky-reaching school and I were once friends. The school's disciples were also once very powerful. If you go with them to the god's relic, it will perhaps be a little easier for you, said the Sky River Great Elder. Countless cultivators would be going on this trip. All the heroes of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path were gathered together for this chance given to them by the Great Emperor. Although Yi Futian was incredibly talented, it would be extremely difficult for him to do this by himself. A little carelessness would lead him to a dead end. However, the sky-reaching master is very proud, and his disciples all have a bit of that characteristic as well. I was friends with the vice-hierophant in the past, but things are different now, and I might be refused. You should not get your hopes up too much, said the Sky River Great Elder. Yi Futian nodded slightly. It seemed like he had given this a lot of thought, and had a clear view of the situation. He had once been a son-in-law of the Shun clan with great power and a bright future. Now things were different, and it would be perfectly normal if he was refused. But he had come anyway, placing his honor on the line. He was the Sky River Great Elder, and so it was easy to imagine what kind of proud figure he had been in the past. The years had affected him greatly, and his personality had changed as well. The two of them ascended the sky stairwell. Yi Futian looked at the scene before him. Below the stairs was an endless abyss in addition to the huge mountain peaks that reached into the sky and supported the mansion. The abyss was filled with a frightening aura, and flames of the way danced within it while destructive lightning flashed. It was a terrible mixture of destructive power, and terrifying light shone upon the stair continuously. They could feel an incredibly threatening atmosphere at the top of the stairs. What was more frightening was that they could see figures cultivating down in that abyss of chaotic destruction. An infinite abyss was actually being used as a place for cultivation. The two of them walked up to the mansion. There was a huge gate in front of it, with 2 guards outside. They looked at the 2 people coming towards them. At that moment, a figure walked out of the gate and bowed slightly to the Sky River Great Elder. The Vice-Hierophant knows you have come, and he ordered me to come and greet you. Please come in. The Sky River Great Elder nodded. Thank you. He did not feel like there was anything strange about this. They had just come up the sky stairwell, so it was only natural that someone would be waiting for them. The sky-reaching school was very large, like a real mansion. Walking into from the outside, they had to greatly increase their speed in order to reach a magnificent ancient temple within. A middle-aged man wearing a robe patterned with dark flames walked out to meet them. His jet-black hair hung down to his brow, and he had a dark beard. He was broad-shouldered and imposing. It has been many years, Sky River Great Elder. You have changed a lot, said the middle-aged man. His voice was like thunder, shaking in people's eardrums as he spoke. For someone at Yi Futian's level, hearing him talk shook his very state of mind. It was obvious that this was a powerful man. Moreover, he had not done this on purpose. He was naturally like this. I have indeed been most impolite, said the Sky River Great Elder with a smile. Futian, this is the Vice-Hierophant of the Sky-Reaching School. He is an old friend of mine. Greetings, Elder. My name is Yi Futian, said Yi Futian with a bow. He did not hide his identity. All the powerful cultivators of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path were going on this trip, especially those from top forces. Thus, there was no point in hiding himself. Even though the people of the Central Emperor realm had heard of him, and most of them knew he had once been Lord Taishuan's disciple, who was the Sky River Great Elder's good friend, the people of the higher heavens thought that he was still Lord Taishuan's disciple. The people of the Shun clan knew the truth, that Lord Taishuan had sent him to the Tianhe realm, but they would not think too much of this. If his previous master had not shown up, the Shun clan would have investigated him. But since they had taken his previous master, they were not paying any attention to Yi Futian. They had already taken Qi Xiangang, so why would they pay any more attention to his disciple? Master Qi Xiangang had really only appeared twice. The first time was at the Battle of Demon God Mountain, where few people knew him. The second time, more people had seen him. He had defeated Yi Tianyu, but no one heard his name. He did not care about people knowing about his name. The people of the greatly sacred dynasty only knew him as the imperial advisor. If someone wanted to investigate him, they would see how talented his student Yi Futian was. He had cultivated at the celestial gate of vast heaven, had once defeated Yi Tianyu, had cultivated at Taishan Mountain, and had defeated all opponents at the Divine Palace. Thus, people would have ignored Qi Xiangang. Thus, unless they thoroughly investigated everything about him from top to bottom, there was basically no chance of exposing the fact that they had been master and student. The Vice Hierophant looked at Yi Futian and said, I would never have thought that the Sky River Great Elder would take another personal disciple. You must be incredibly talented. There were a few disciples by the Vice Hierophant's side. Their eyes were like lightning, and their auras were magnificent as they looked at Yi Futian. I am getting old, and so naturally, I wish to find someone who could inherit my mantle, said the Sky River Great Elder. Futian is indeed incredibly talented. He is now at the peak of the Saint Plain. I brought him here to ask you a favor. Can he go to the God's Relic trials with the students of the Sky Reaching School? A deep look came into the Vice Hierophant's eyes as he looked at Yi Futian. He was silent for a while, then said, Sky River Great Elder, you and I were once very close. Anything you ask, I will do for you. But you know the God's Relic is incredibly important at this time, and we can't afford any mistakes. Even my master is paying close attention to it. If I let you disciple come with us, it might attract hostile attention from the Shun clan, and it might make them our enemies. This would not be a good thing for the Sky Reaching School. Thus, I fear I have no power to do this for you. When he heard what the Vice Hierophant was saying, the Sky River Great Elder nodded slightly and said, I do not wish to trouble you any further, friend, so I will say no more. Farewell. Won't you stay for a while? Asked the Vice Hierophant. I can't, I have to bring him to other places, said the Sky River Great Elder. Very well, then I won't see you off. The Vice Hierophant did not stay any longer, and so they said farewell and left. The two of them gradually faded in the distance, then disappeared from vision. The Vice Hierophant sighed and said, I never thought the Sky River Great Elder would come here begging for us to take his disciple to the God's Relic. He is indeed getting old. This is something that absolutely never would have happened in the past. He was the Sky River Great Elder. He had married a daughter of the Shun clan, and dared to defy them. Now his heroic days were long past. He only wanted to pass on his mantle. There will be many cultivators on this trip to the God's Relic, and the Sky River Great Elder is asking us to oppose the Shun clan for his disciple. He thinks a little too highly of himself, said a youth beside him whose eyes shone with the light of thunder and fire. His voice was cold and mocking. He had no respect for an elder like the Sky River Great Elder. When the Sky River Great Elder had made a name for himself, he had not been born yet. The Vice Hierophant smiled. The Sky River Great Elder had always regarded himself very highly. After all, back then he had the right to. But now things were different. It was said that not long ago, his wife had been taken away by the Shun clan. Now his last hope was to pass on his teachings to a disciple. But how could they get around an obstacle as huge as the Shun clan? Could he do so by teaching a new disciple? It was absolutely impossible. After the Sky River Great Elder brought Yi Futian away, the two of them visited two more forces. Each time was the same. They were refused. Although everyone would greet him politely because he was the Sky River Great Elder, there was no enthusiasm in their greetings, and they were frankly refused. Who would offend one of the top forces for the sake of the Sky River Great Elder? Moreover, there was no benefit to them for bringing Yi Futian along. They did not think they could gain anything from him. Even though he was the Sky River Great Elder's heir, not many people cared about that. As far as they were concerned, bringing him along was tantamount to directly defying the Shun clan. Wouldn't that just be an extra burden? At that moment, the Sky River Great Elder and Yi Futian were traveling. Yi Futian looked at his master and asked, Are we going to visit another place? They had already been refused 3 times in a row. Even the Sky River Great Elder was beginning to feel a bit humiliated. But he had said he did not care. Since his master still persisted, he would not complain. "No, those were the only people in the imperial realm who I am on good terms with," replied the Sky River Great Elder. "Then where are we going next?" asked Yi Futian. "To the City of the Ruins, the entrance to the God's Relic," answered the Sky River Great Elder. "We will wait there for Taixian." Yi Futian nodded slightly and said nothing. He looked at his master. In reality, he was starting to feel some doubts. At first, he had thought that his master really simply wanted to find a force for him to travel with, but had reminded him that there was little hope of this. But they had been refused 3 times in a row, so he no longer thought this. It was clear that they were going to be refused, but his master had still persisted. Seeing his master's attitude, Yi Futian thought that he was doing this on purpose. Other people might not be able to see it clearly, but he was right by his master's side and could see what he was doing. He thought that his master was doing this to put on a show for someone. Could it be for the Shen clan? Then what was his master's goal in doing this? Did he want the Shen clan to underestimate him? Although Yi Futian had his doubts, his master did not say anything, so he did not ask. The two of them continued on, rushing towards the City of the Ruins. They were not the only ones. At that moment, countless cultivators from the Central Emperor realm were rushing there. The news that the Sky River Great Elder had returned to the Imperial realm gradually reached many people. Soon they all learned that he had visited 3 powerful forces and been refused by all of them. All of his former glory was gone. The people of the Imperial realm all sighed. The hero had grown old. The Sky River Elder, he had once refused to lower his head under the pressure of the Shen clan, was now lowering his head for his heir. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1590 The City of the Ruins. 1590 The City of the Ruins. The City of the Ruins was not a grand ancient city. Although it was called a city, in reality, the City of the Ruins had long become an area of dilapidated ruins. It was an area that had been abandoned since ancient times. It appeared vast and endless. This area of ruins was the entrance to God's relic. Hence, the denizens of the Central Emperor realm called this endless place of rundown ruins the City of the Ruins. However, this area of ruins had now become the most prosperous area in the Central Emperor realm. Everyone from all the 9 realms, and even the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, went there. The usually abandoned City of the Ruins instantly became an area of bustling activity. This was a special event that occurred every 50 years. The dilapidated ruins turned into the center of the 9 realms. Restaurants and inns popped up in many areas. Some people served food and drinks to welcome those who came free of charge. Even so, the people coming to the City of the Ruins were extremely generous. Hence, the providers reaped huge gains. Among those who had arrived in advance, the daily topic of conversion was always which major force from the 9 realms had arrived. However, most of the people arriving there were from the Central Emperor realm. They were relatively more familiar with the top forces, as well as the prominent figures in the Central Emperor realm. They were not so familiar with powerful cultivators from other realms, unless they specialized in reconnaissance and had investigated all the top forces, as well as the exceptionally prestigious people at and below the level of Runhuang throughout the entire 9 supreme regions. A lot of people were peddling information in the City of the Ruins. After all, many of the people who were entering God's relic needed such information. There was an exceptionally spacious open-air tavern that was rather shabby, but the customers there did not seem to mind the place, and were very generous. To be able to witness the opening of God's relic, this grand event of the 9 realms, that only occurs every 50 years, I can die content, someone said. It is just a pity that I cannot even tell the top forces of the 9 realms apart. Buzz! In the sky above, a gale swept past. A group of people was traversing the sky. Far off in the distance, Sword Chi whistled. A group of swordsmen wielding swords in the air was flying over the City of the Ruins. At a glance, such a scene was playing out everywhere else. The people in the tavern were used to it. When they heard a sound, they raised their heads and looked up with no surprise in their eyes. They had long grown accustomed to it. It had been like this every day for the past few days. Indeed, I cannot distinguish between them. Another person beside the first teased. Even if a member of the top forces from the 9 realms sat down in front of me, I would not be able to recognize them. The members of the top forces all have an extraordinary temperament. Their auras are extremely powerful. Besides that, they are led by powerful figures. You can still recognize them from these traits, another person explained. Voices sounded in the tavern one after another as an elder, and a young person walked in and sat down. These 2 people were Sky River Great Elder and Futian. No one noticed the 2 of them. Futian glanced at the silhouette of the person who had just spoken. Sky River Great Elder was a major figure, but the other party could not recognize him. Indeed, even if a prominent figure walked up to you and sat down next to you, you would not know who sat beside you, Futian thought. Such a situation was common in the city of the ruins. Grandmaster, if you have the time, can you check and see whether Lord Taishian has arrived? Futian transmitted his thoughts to Sky River Great Elder. If Lord Taishian had arrived, they would meet up with him. Taishian Mountain must have received a prophecy. Before this, Futian had been rejected by 3 major forces of the Central Emperor realm. He only followed along Taishian Mountain to enter God's relic. All right. Sky River Great Elder nodded in agreement. His will swept outward. Instantly, the people in the tavern felt a strange sensation. However, they did not know what was happening. In that instance, Sky River Great Elders will had swept past all of the people present. After a short while, Sky River Great Elder retracted his will and transmitted his thoughts to Futian, saying, I did not sense him. He is most likely behind us. Many powerful figures have also arrived. It is not too polite to sweep my will across like this. Other people's wills can also locate us. We should not use this method too frequently. As expected, Futian felt a strange sensation. It was as if someone was watching him. He knew that it was the will of a powerful person sweeping over him. We will wait a few more days then, Futian replied. Since he is coming from another realm, Lord Taishian would need some time to prepare and choose the disciples that will enter the ruins, Sky River Great Elder said. There might be some people who want to enter God's relic, and will join various top forces to do so. If that is so, it may take Lord Taishian some time. Futian understood that. Prophecies were only bestowed upon the top forces. Ordinary cultivators never received prophecies. Only by joining the top forces was one able to receive the qualification to enter God's relic. There might have even been people from outside the 9 realms who wanted to seize such an opportunity. The 2 of them stayed at the tavern for some time before leaving. Futian prepared to find a place to continue cultivating in peace for a few days while waiting for God's relic to open. The members of Taishian Mountain were bound to arrive sooner or later. Even if Lord Taishian did not come, some powerful cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate realm would. The days passed by. The day that God's relic would open steadily approached. More and more cultivators also arrived. The various top forces in the 9 realms gradually arrived after receiving the prophecy. The top forces of the Heavenly Mandate realm also arrived. Some of the top forces had formed alliances before coming. For example, Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and Violet Heavenly Palace arrived together due to their previous alliance. Overlord of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty made an appearance as the commander. Violet Heavenly Palace's palace lord had not come. The 2 fellows from the celestial gate of vast heaven were still out there. Both Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and Violet Heavenly Palace still needed to be on their guard. Heavenly Mandate Dynasty was powerful and had exceedingly strong defenses, so they could still hold off the 2 fellows. Violet Heavenly Palace was somewhat at risk. Hence, their palace lord had stayed behind to hold the fort, and had placed the members of Violet Heavenly Palace in the care of Overlord of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty. Currently, the team formed from the alliance of those 2 powers had many powerful cultivators. They even had many Renhuang playing cultivators. Zhan Yuan, the Violet Heavenly Palace's supreme body of the Great Path, was also there. However, Yi Tianyu was not among them. Yi Tianyu was set to arrive with members of Divine Palace from the Higher Heavens realm. In the City of the Ruins, The members of the 9 realms had a mutual understanding that the members of each realm would each occupy a domain. After all, members of the same realm were familiar with each other, so it was relatively harder for conflict to arise between them. When the forces of the heavenly mandate realm arrived one after the other, be it consciously or subconsciously, they gathered together in a domain. Lady of Brahma's pure sky has arrived, Overlord of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty said. Let's go for a walk. As he spoke, he immediately walked over to a spot. There, Lady of Brahma's pure sky led a group of cultivators. Futian goddess and the various virgins had arrived. Among them, Virgin Qin he was the leader. Her current level was extremely high, almost approaching the level of Renhuang. Some people from the heavenly mandate realm speculated that it was likely that Qin he could already reach the Renhuang plane, but had stopped herself before ascending on the Great Path. Becoming a Renhuang was not easy. Achieving this plane was very difficult. Even geniuses usually broke through to the plane naturally, and did not hold themselves back, unless they had previously decided to enter God's relic. Most of the members of the Central Emperor realm had made such a choice. This was their home turf, so they were the most prepared to be chosen to enter God's relic. Among the people from other realms, only those with exceptionally outstanding talent, and who were about to break through to a higher plane within the year suppressed themselves from having a breakthrough. In the end, everyone had to choose for themselves. Many people chose to not suppress themselves to enter the ruins. After all, this also posed a certain risk. Immediately reaching the level of Renhuang smoothly was in and of itself the goal of countless people. Brahma's pure queen, dynastic overlord shouted out to her and asked, although we have had our differences before, when entering God's relic this time, why don't we, the forces from the heavenly mandate realm, stick together? We can look out for each other, and let our juniors have a better chance. How about it? Is Tianyu not around? Lady of Brahma's pure sky swept a glance at the crowd. He is with some friends from Divine Palace, dynastic overlord said. Although the talents of the members of the heavenly mandate realm are not weak, it is different this time around. In the entire heavenly mandate realm, no one dares claim that they can walk out of God's relic alive. This time, not just the heavenly mandate realm was involved. The 9 realms were all involved. Among the 9 realms, the heavenly mandate realm was still considered one of the relatively weaker realms. Even the higher heavens realm was more powerful than the heavenly mandate realm. On top of that, there was the terrifying Central Emperor realm, as well as other realms. Even Tianyu was not confident that he could walk out of God's relic alive, after learning that Yi Futian had entered Divine Palace. There is no need for us to do so. The queen's figure was dazzling. Her sacredness could not be defiled. Even against Overlord, she nonchalantly said, when we enter the ruins, even as fellow members of the heavenly mandate realm, there is no trust between us to speak of. Why should we bother with such an alliance? Since we are entering God's relic, we will bow to our own fates. Such an alliance was too volatile. Such boldness from Brahma's pure queen, dynastic overlord calmly replied. He led his men and immediately left. He had already given her face by going over to greet her. Unfortunately, Brahma's pure sky didn't seem to appreciate the gesture. After they left, among Brahma's pure sky virgins, Qin He's gaze looked into the distance. She did not know whether he had come. Rumor had it that previously he was cultivating in Taishan Mountain of the higher heavens realm. Right now she did not know where he was. The forces from the higher heavens realm arrived one after another. Divine Palace had the largest contingent, followed by Golden Divine Nation, which was brilliant and eye-catching. Taishan Mountain had also come. Lord Taishan led a group of powerful cultivators. However, there was still no hope for their Taishan Mountain this time around. He had come just to meet Yi Futian. The number of people in the city of the ruins increased at a terrifying rate. People were seen everywhere. Another 2 silhouettes walked into the city of the ruins. One was an aloof middle-aged figure, while another was a woman dressed in male clothes. The latter was very beautiful. Anyone was able to tell that she was a beauty at a glance. There sure are a lot of powerful cultivators, the middle-aged figure said as he walked. His gaze swept from left to right. Cultivators at the Saint Plain were everywhere. As he walked, many were at his level, the Runhuang Plain. It should be so for such a grand event of the 9 realms, the woman beside him said. The Supreme Path realm truly is different. A place like our Emperor Xia's realm pales in comparison. We can only reside in our little corner. The middle-aged figure laughed and asked, "Are you certain that the brat will come?" It turned out that the Runhuang who arrived was actually Emperor Xia. The woman beside him was Xia Qingyuan. The members of the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven were all sent to different places. Xia Qingyuan was sent to the lower worlds. In a time like this, she was only able to get help from her father, the only person she could contact, Emperor Xia. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1591 Meetup. 1591 Meetup. Sky River Great Elder and Yi Futian cultivated in a corner of the City of the Ruins. Suddenly, Sky River Great Elder opened his eyes and looked into the distance. He said, "The party from Taishan Mountain has arrived." Yi Futian, who was next to him, gradually opened his eyes. He also looked into the distance. After waiting for a few days, the party from Taishan Mountain had finally arrived. The party from Taishan Mountain seems to be with some other forces from the higher heavens realm in a domain, Sky River Great Elder said. "Let's head over there now." "Sure." Yi Futian nodded his head. With a flash, their 2 figures headed in the same direction. The party from Taishan Mountain was gathered together. Lord Taishan was waiting. He was the one who had actively sought out Sky River Great Elder with his will, and transmitted his thoughts over to the latter. Now, he knew that the other party was rushing over to meet them. Many cultivators from the higher heavens realm were in the surrounding domains. They also had their eyes on Lord Taishan. They had heard that Lord Taishan had made a trip before. After that, Yi Futian had not made an appearance for the past year. Among the members of Taishan Mountain on this trip, as expected, Yi Futian's silhouette was nowhere to be seen. Where had he gone off to? Divine Palace, Golden Divine Nation, and many other forces of the higher heavens realm were still concerned about Yi Futian's whereabouts. Yi Futian was someone who could reign supreme among a generation of cultivators. Among those below the Runhuang Plain in the higher heavens realm, he ranked among the top 3. Huang Zhong from Divine Palace Ancestral Lands was the only person who could suppress him. At the moment, many people looked up into the distance. They had sensed something, and could not help but reveal bizarre looks. Yi Futian had appeared. However, he had appeared with another elder, who was not Lord Taishan. They were headed in this direction to meet up with Lord Taishan. After a short while, in front of the members of Taishan Mountain, 2 silhouettes descended from the sky and appeared before the crowd. Lord Taishan. Yi Futian bowed slightly at Lord Taishan, who had sent him to the Tianhe realm. Although it was unintentional, it had allowed Yi Futian to learn about his master's situation. Otherwise, Yi Futian would have most likely not known that his master had been captured by the Shun clan. "How has your cultivation been this past year?" Lord Taishan asked. "After cultivating with master for a year, I have already approached the Great Path," Yi Futian replied. When Lord Taishan heard Yi Futian's reply, he smiled and nodded in approval. Sky River Great Elder's cultivation methods were suitable for reaching the Runhuang Plain. Sending Yi Futian over had not been a waste. Since Yi Futian claimed that he was approaching the Great Path, he was likely close to having a breakthrough. "I approached the Great Path a year ago. Until now, I have yet to have a breakthrough. From the looks of it, you will manage to catch up with me again," a silhouette from behind Lord Taishan said with a smile. It was Wan Shuyi, the cultivator from Taishan Mountain Sword Abyss. Back then, he had been aided by Yi Futian and gained insight in his swordsmanship. After returning to Taishan Mountain, he stumbled upon an opportunity and managed to approach the Great Path. This past year, he had spent almost all of his time cultivating, but he always seemed to be one step away. Although he had always felt that he was inferior to Yi Futian, he still believed that he would reach the Runhuang Plain first. However, from the looks of it now, even that was not certain. The speed at which this fellow improved his cultivation was too frightening. Wuxia had truly been unable to break through to the next plane. He was not suppressing his cultivation. If he was able to break through to the next plane, he would not intentionally suppress his cultivation. He would have gone with the flow and stepped into the Renhuang plane. Futian smiled. Wuxia's disposition was extremely good. When he heard Futian address Sky River as master, Lord Taishan asked Sky River Great Elder with a smile. Sky River, what do you think about the disciple I sent you? For Sky River Great Elder to have accompanied Futian, Lord Taishan wondered whether he had overcome his previous trauma. Lord Taishan was unclear about the exact relationship between Futian and Sky River Great Elder. He did not know that the protagonist of the series of events back then was Futian's master. A chill suddenly descended upon them. In midair, a group of silhouettes walked over. They shone with divine light. Futian raised his head and looked in the direction of the silhouettes. He was greeted with blinding divine golden light. They were cultivators from Golden Divine Nation. Gai Shishir was among them. The contingent of Golden Divine Nation was extremely powerful. This time around, it was only second to that of Divine Palace. The bodies of the Golden Divine Nation's Renhuangs radiated divine golden light that was blinding. Many Taishan Mountain disciples shielded their eyes with their hands. Lord Taishan raised his head at the contingent of Golden Divine Nation and asked, "What business do you have with us?" "We saw that Lord Taishan was here, so we came to pay a visit," the Divine General of Golden Divine Nation said. His voice was calm. When his gaze swept over Futian, it was extremely sharp. Gai Shishir kept staring at Futian. He was sure to pay back Futian for previously humiliating him. Gai Shishir's cultivation had greatly improved, but he did not know what level Futian was at now. With the combat ability that Futian had previously revealed, it was rather difficult for Gai Shishir to defeat him. "You are too kind," Lord Taishan replied. "I see that the Lord of the Golden Divine Nation has not come. Please extend my greetings to him." "Certainly," the Divine General responded. Both parties seemed to be speaking with no animosity. It was as though they were having a normal conversation and were extremely polite. However, everyone sensed the rivalry between them. Futian took the sigh of the divine god from Gai Shishir. This was the magnum opus of Golden Divine Nation. Now that it was in the hands of an outsider, how could they possibly be at ease? "Lord Taishan," another voice also called out. Another group of silhouettes approached. The leader was a powerful cultivator from Divine Palace. Futian saw many familiar faces. They were all prominent figures in Divine Palace. To the side of the Divine Palace members were members from Divine Swordly family, Changfeng clan and Sky Burying God clan. In the distance, behind this group of people, there were also cultivators from Divine Capital of Shilling. Old Demon Shilling led the group and stood at the very front. His gaze was deep and cold, causing others to be frightened of him. Prominent figures from all across the higher heavens realm had gathered there. Among the Divine Palace members, Futian even saw that Huang Zhong was present. 1 to 2 years ago, Huang Zhong had already qualified to break through to the Renhuang plane. However, he wanted to hone his divine wheel of the Great Path. He sought perfection and wanted to exceed his limits. There was still another year before he would enter Divine Palace ancestral lands. Since Huang Zhong still had not broken through to the next plane, one could imagine how powerful he was at the Saint Plane. He was almost without equal. A person like Huang Zhong had long outgrown pursuing the lower Renhuang plane. Tianyu was also present. His gaze landed on Futian. When he discovered that Xinjing was Futian, he had been greatly affected. Now he had finally met Futian again. This time, Futian had already returned to his original appearance. His temperament was even more outstanding than back then in the Heavenly Mandate realm. "Are you the one who entered ancestral lands?" Huang Zhong asked as he looked at Futian. Before this, Huang Zhong had encountered Futian when he was disguised as Xinjing. "I am," Futian replied as he looked at Huang Zhong. When he sensed the aura on Futian's body, Huang Zhong muttered, "You have reached a higher cultivation plane. I wonder how much of an improvement you have made since the last time we met." Futian smiled. Yi Futian and Divine Palace can be considered to have entwined destinies. If you don't mind, after entering God's relic, you all can look out for one another, a senior of Divine Palace said. Yi Futian had entered Divine Palace ancestral lands before. He was considered to have forged an unbreakable bond with Divine Palace. I do not need others to look out for me. After entering God's relic, I will not waste my time on them, Huang Zhong retorted. After he entered into God's relic, he would travel alone. Although they were from the same sect, his relationship with the other Divine Palace disciples was not close. He had no time to take care of others. This was God's relic. How could he waste time on other people? I was only offering a suggestion. As for how things turn out, suit yourselves, the senior from Divine Palace said. Divine Palace never meddled in the affairs of others. They were there was because they had also received the prophecy. Hence, they had brought their disciples. As for what would transpire after the disciples entered God's relic, the seniors could not and did not want to control it. Many people looked at Huang Zhong. He was renowned as the top existence below Ren Huang in the higher heavens realm. As expected, he had some character. However, with Huang Zhong's might, he was likely highly ranked among the 9 realms. He could have even possibly been one of the top 10 existences in the 9 realms. On the outskirts of this domain, a lot of cultivators had gathered. They all knew that the people there were members of the top forces of the higher heavens realm. After receiving the prophecy, many people wanted to visit these forces and enter God's relic through them. Such a scene was very common. If they wanted to enter God's relic, many figures at the pinnacle of the Saint Plane, without major backgrounds, relied on the help of these top forces. Hence, near the outskirts of this domain, there were many cultivators standing guard. They sealed it off and forbid outsiders from simply stepping into the domain. Such a large contingent. Among the crowd, Emperor Xia looked around and found the place interesting. This contingent is too powerful. That fellow has found friends in such high places. Recalling the youth in the Emperor Xia's realm back then, Emperor Xia felt that this was somewhat surreal. Before this, he was lord of a realm. Here, the people around the outskirts of this domain were not weaker than him. There were quite a few Renhuangs. Emperor Xia felt somewhat disheartened. How was he going to keep his cool before Yi Futian from now on? Friend, I am looking for someone who is in the domain, Emperor Xia said to the person who was guarding the outskirts. However, the Renhuang before him swept an indifferent glance at him and ignored him. I truly am looking for someone, Emperor Xia continued saying. They all are. The Renhuang swept a glance at their surroundings. Emperor Xia glanced at the crowd. His face involuntarily turned red. Yi Futian. Helpless, Emperor Xia could only shout out. In the distance, Yi Futian, who was with the contingent, heard Emperor Xia's voice. He turned his gaze toward Emperor Xia. When Yi Futian saw his silhouette, he subconsciously revealed a look of surprise. He dashed over in a flash. Seeing Yi Futian's actions, many powerful cultivators looked at him. They saw Yi Futian come up to Emperor Xia and Xia Qingyuan. Your Highness, Princess. When he saw the two of them, Yi Futian revealed a smile. He was naturally happy to see Xia Qingyuan safe and sound. Emperor Xia nodded as he smiled slightly, putting on the airs of a Renhuang who was lord of a realm. However, Emperor Xia saw that there was a group of people approaching them. Each of them had auras that were unfathomable. Someone merely glanced at him, and he felt his heart tremble. Emperor Xia's previous aura instantly dwindled. The company that this fellow kept was too good. He had no place to show his face. Futian, who is this? Lord Taishian asked. Although Emperor Xia did not know what plane Lord Taishian was at, he could tell with just a glance that Lord Taishian was far more powerful than he was. They were not on the same level. Senior, Emperor Xia greeted as he bowed slightly. No need for formalities. Lord Taishian nodded slightly in acknowledgement. This is Emperor Xia, a senior of mine, Yi Futian said. And this is my good friend Xia Qingyuan. So, they are your old friends, Lord Taishian said and nodded. Please continue with your conversation. As Lord Taishian spoke, he walked away. Yaya walked over and greeted Emperor Xia. You are also here, Emperor Xia said when he saw Yaya. The two most powerful great swordsmen in Emperor Xia's realm might both be here. Swordmaster of Lihan has also arrived? Yi Futian asked. He should have, Emperor Xia replied. Not long after the events in the Emperor Li's realm were over, Swordmaster of Lihan abdicated Lihan Heaven and came to the palace to bid me farewell. He said that he wanted to go on a training journey and would be coming to the most powerful Central Emperor realm. It has been many years since then, so he should have arrived in the Central Emperor realm. If that's the case, it is possible that he will come here. Yi Futian gently nodded. Swordmaster of Lihan had been very devoted back then. He only pursued swordsmanship. He finally decided to cast away his former shackles and leave Emperor Xia's realm. If he truly has come here, he should be finding ways to join some force to be qualified to enter God's relic, Emperor Xia said. Coincidentally, if you encounter him, you can lend him a hand. Naturally, Yi Futian replied. Swordmaster of Lihan had been kind to him. If Yi Futian encountered an old friend, he would undoubtedly help out as much as he could. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1592 The Nine Realms. 1592 The Nine Realms. Yi Futian turned his gaze to Xia Qingyuan and asked, Princess, have you been doing well these past few years? During the battle at Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven, the teleportation Grand Matrix had sent everyone away to different places. Yi Futian was very happy that he was able to meet Xia Qingyuan again. Xia Qingyuan glanced at Yi Futian but ignored him. Yi Futian was confused. When had he offended this little princess again? Qingyuan was sent to the lower worlds, Emperor Xia said with a smile. After I took her home, she kept saying that she wanted to find out where you were. When she was in the Heavenly Mandate realm, she heard that you were in the Higher Heavens realm. After that, the bell sounded in the Nine Realms, so Qingyuan guessed that you would come here. As expected, we found you here. A grown girl can't be kept at home. As her father, I have never experienced this treatment before. Emperor Xia was puzzled. What was this girl thinking? Didn't she notice the people who were now with Yi Futian? Even as the lord of a realm, Emperor Xia could only shudder before these mighty figures. His girl was concerned about Yi Futian, yet she acted cold when they finally met. Women TSK. If she was unable to let go of her ego, she would suffer a great loss sooner or later. Upon hearing his words, Xia Qingyuan stared at Emperor Xia with an innocent face. Ha! What kind of father was this? He ratted her out so decisively. I have also been worrying about Princess these past few years, Yi Futian replied with a smile. Now that I have seen you with His Highness, I can put my worries to rest. I believe you, Xia Qingyuan said to Yi Futian. Her eyes locked on him. Upon studying her gaze, Yi Futian felt uncomfortable. What was with her gaze? Would he lie to her? When I had my trial in Divine Palace, I obtained many items. These are for you. Yi Futian took out a few fruits of the way, which emanated the rich will of way of life, and handed them over to Xia Qingyuan. Sensing the dense will from the fruits, Xia Qingyuan was momentarily stunned. She slightly raised her head to look at him. Her gaze had turned much gentler. Xia Qingyuan extended her hands and received the fruits without any hesitation. She quickly put them away. Her heart was warmed. Emperor Xia, who was standing beside them, felt somewhat helpless as he watched his daughter's antics. Even though she had a high plane of cultivation, her temperament was still that of a teenage girl. There was wisdom to the old saying that women were all fools when it came to certain aspects. I still have some of these fruits with me, however. Your Highness has no use for them, Yi Futian said. If Swordmaster is here, he can benefit from the fruits. I will go and check whether or not Swordmaster is in the City of the Ruins. How will you check? Emperor Xia asked. I will ask for Lord Taishuan's help, Yi Futian replied. He can do a quick sweep with his will and scan through the entire City of the Ruins. Emperor Xia revealed an embarrassed expression. This, Emperor Xia's will could also cover a large area. However, there were now countless extremely powerful figures in the City of the Ruins. He didn't dare use his will to casually scan around their surroundings, even though he was at the Runhuang Plain. He was a lower-level Runhuang at the 3rd tier. If he used his will to scan those mighty cultivators, it might annoy them. If they attacked him with their will, could he stand against such attacks? Yi Futian made it sound simple. That is a good idea. Emperor Xia solemnly nodded his head. He felt slightly embarrassed. Yi Futian knew nothing about Emperor Xia's emotions. After all, Yi Futian was used to using that method of locating other people. However, Emperor Xia was lord of a realm. He had been pampered in the Emperor Xia's realm, where his word was law. Although he was keenly aware that there were many people in the 3,000 realms of the Great Path who were stronger than he was, he still needed time to adjust after seeing so many of them gathered together. Then let's head over there. As he spoke, Yi Futian turned and headed in the direction of Lord Taishuan's location. He said, Lord Taishuan, I would like to request your help in finding someone and seeing whether he is in the city of the ruins. Grandmaster Sky River Great Elder was at a lower cultivation plane than Lord Taishuan. Hence, it was more suitable for Lord Taishuan to carry out a sweep search. Even if his will swept past other top figures, such a meager incident couldn't cause any trouble. After all, both of them were top existences. However, it was different for a lower-level Renhuang like Emperor Xia. If one was scanned by another person of the same level or a higher level, one could pretend that nothing had happened. How could one let a person who was at a lower level scan them as they pleased? If Emperor Xia scanned over a cultivator who was ill-tempered, they could immediately attack him from a distance. For such powerful figures, such a distance was insignificant. They were able to attack anywhere their will covered. Hence, ordinary Renhuang did not dare to simply scan around. Even upper-level Renhuang needed to think twice before doing so, such as how Sky River Great Elder had before. Very well. Show me his appearance, Lord Taishuan said. Yi Futian's will emanated from his glabella and entered into Lord Taishuan's eyes. That will suffice. Lord Taishuan nodded. His powerful will instantly expanded outward and enveloped the entire city of the ruins within itself. Soon, he found the person Yi Futian was looking for in a corner of the city of the ruins. The person had indeed arrived in the city. Among the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, the 9 supreme imperial realms were situated at the center of the 3,000 realms. 8 of the 9 supreme imperial realms revolved around the central emperor realm. They were the Heavenly Mandate Realm, Higher Heavens Realm, Emperor Star Realm, Mountain Realm, Myriad Realm, Solar Realm, Shadow Realm, and Hidden Land Realm. The 9 realms were the absolute center of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Each realm had top forces. To be considered one of the top forces of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, a realm needed to have at least a powerful upper-level Renhuang at the 7th tier of the Divine Wheel to hold the fort. In reality, just having an upper-level Renhuang at the 7th tier of the Divine Wheel was insufficient to rank among the top forces. A realm needed at least an upper-level Renhuang at the 8th tier of the Divine Wheel as the lead, and another upper-level Renhuang at the 7th tier of the Divine Wheel to act as support. Most top forces had a powerful figure at the 9th tier of the Divine Wheel as the lead, along with another at the 7th or 8th tier of the Divine Wheel as support. Back then, Yi Tianyu from the Heavenly Mandate Realm, the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty's dynastic overlord, and Lord Taishuan were all above the 9th tier of the Divine Wheel. Renhuangs were divided into 3 levels: upper level, middle level, and lower level. Each level was divided according to strength. For instance, even cultivators that were both from the Nirvana plane had different levels of ability. At the Renhuang plane, such differences were huge depending on the cultivator's depth of cultivation. Thus, each level was further divided into 3 smaller tiers, according to the strength of the cultivator's divine wheel of the Great Path. Upper-level Renhuangs were categorized into the 7th, 8th, and 9th tier of the divine wheel, with the 9th tier of the divine wheel being the strongest. The Myriad Realm also had many top forces. There was one extremely powerful force, known as Heavenly Sword Hall. Heavenly Sword Hall was a legendary Myriad Realm swordsmanship force. The most powerful swordsmen from the Myriad Realm were mostly from Heavenly Sword Hall. Heavenly Sword Hall was even heralded in the Myriad Realm as the top swordsmanship force among the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Heavenly Sword Hall had a unique cultivation method, which was different from many other swordsmanship forces. Those who wished to become the disciples of Heavenly Sword Hall had to fulfill one requirement. They had to possess a sword spirit. People with only life spirits were not destined to practice swordsmanship. Even those who had practiced swordsmanship before were not accepted into Heavenly Sword Hall. Their cultivation method focused on cultivating their sword spirits. They focused less on sword techniques. Their goal was to refine their sword spirits until they reached their utmost limit, converting their sword spirits into their natal implements. Thus, they strived to master the ultimate swordsmanship. Besides that, there was another benefit to this cultivation method. The cultivators had more advantages when they broke through to the Sword Emperor plane. Their sword spirits were better at merging with the great path of all things. Moreover, sword spirits that had been cultivated for years nurtured the physical bodies of their owners. In Heavenly Sword Hall, the members prioritized the practice of sword spirits. In comparison, sword techniques and sword madra were not as important. Heavenly Sword Hall's cultivation method was extremely harsh and difficult. The threshold was very high. Many people had trained their sword spirits to the point of crippling their sword spirits. However, they also managed to cultivate a group of powerful swordsmen. God's relic was opening soon, so Heavenly Sword Hall would not miss the opportunity. In the domain where the cultivators from the myriad realm were gathered, many cultivators from Heavenly Sword Hall had arrived. Combat had also erupted in this domain. In a huge empty space in the City of the Ruins, Heavenly Sword Hall constructed a tall platform. Many cultivators stood on the platform and looked upon the battles. Before them, there was a battle between swordsmen. Around them, many cultivators had gathered to spectate. Many of them were members of other forces from the myriad realm. They knew that many people had come to the City of the Ruins wanting to gain the qualification to enter God's relic by going through the top forces. However, most of the top forces were not lacking in numbers. Similarly, many swordsmen had come seeking Heavenly Sword Hall. Unlike other forces, Heavenly Sword Hall did not directly reject these people. Instead, they offered them an opportunity. Those who sought them out would battle against the swordsmen of Heavenly Sword Hall. As long as the other swordsmen won, Heavenly Sword Hall would take them into God's relic. The swordsmen were even able to join Heavenly Sword Hall to practice swordsmanship. Many people understood that this was just a form of training for the disciples of Heavenly Sword Hall before entering God's relic. They used these swordsmen to train their disciples' swordsmanship, slightly improving their abilities before entering into God's relic. Those who accepted the battles understood that fact, but still wanted to give it a go. To this end, many paid with their lives. The battles between swordsmen were perilous. The swordsmen of Heavenly Sword Hall had exceptionally powerful attacks. Once they sent out a killing blow, they could not retract it. Even so, there were still people who wanted to try. Swordmaster of Lihan was one of them. Out of the two swordsmen who were currently exchanging blows on the battlefield, one of them was Swordmaster of Lihan from Emperor Xia's realm. In the battlefield, endless sword will surround its Swordmaster of Lihan. Countless sword flashes crisscrossed in midair, attempting to tear the space apart. However, the swords were suppressed by the opponent's swords, which were hanging in midair with their tips pointing down. Each of the opponent's swords was broader than normal swords, and they were engraved with runes of thunder. The swords emanated terrifying lightning. The lightning was blinding. Swordmaster of Lihan raised his head to stare at the myriad of swords of blitzing thunder. Runes of thunder lit up on every sword. The gigantic sword of blitzing thunder in the middle spanned across the sky. Its tip pointed down as it frenziedly absorbed way of thunder from the surrounding. Its might was unfathomable. Sensing the domineering sword might, Swordmaster of Lihan was well aware that this attack might take his life. However, his gaze remained calm. He had traveled through many realms years ago. His swordsmanship had reached a plateau in Emperor Xia's realm. No one in Emperor Li's realm was a threat to him. Finally, he decided to venture out to explore the 3,000 realms of the Great Path and the legendary Central Emperor realm. As expected, he still had a long way to go. He was revered by all in Emperor Xia's realm as Swordmaster of Lihan. However, he was unable to defeat a disciple from Heavenly Sword Hall. His opponent's sword spirit was far more powerful than his sword spirit. His opponent's sword spirit was forged over countless battles with the power of the Great Path. Swordmaster of Lihan felt a pang of regret. He should have ventured out into the realms when he was much younger. Back then his potential was greater. He would have had a lot more room for improvement, even though it was more dangerous. Actually, Swordmaster of Lihan had misunderstood. The disciples who were chosen by Heavenly Sword Hall to enter God's relic were all very outstanding. Even though Swordmaster of Lihan was from Emperor Xia's realm, he had exceptional comprehension in swordsmanship, since he had immersed himself in cultivating the art for years. For him to be qualified to fight with the swordsmen of Heavenly Sword Hall was already an achievement. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1593 Exchanging Blows. 1593 Exchanging Blows. The Swordmaster of Lihan executed sword mudra with both hands. His gaze was calm and determined as he looked up in the void. The worldly sword will coalesced. A sword appeared gradually in his body. The fierce sound of a vibrating sword resounded everywhere. Countless swords emerged and flew towards the gap in the sky, fast as lightning. In midair, the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall cast a glance downward. His finger pointed towards the ground. The swords of blitzing thunder enveloped the space, blocking all the other swords and shattering them directly. Did he still intend to resist? At the same time, Swordmaster of Lihan's figure disappeared, leaving behind a dazzling trail in the sky. The trail transformed into a sword. Shadows of swords took shape among the innumerable swords of blitzing thunder. Both the sword and the shadows were materialized by the Swordmaster of Lihan. Bam! 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 One by one, the swords of blitzing thunder turned to dust. The sword flash tore apart the empty space, causing the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall to feel slightly threatened. He felt that his body was going to be mangled, and that his spiritual soul was going to be cleaved into two, as though there were legions of sword chi entangling him. This sword embodied the sorrow of farewell. Many shadows appeared around his body. They were all shadows of the Swordmaster of Lihan. The sword spirit of the cultivator of the Heavenly Sword Hall floated in front of him. The cultivator's finger stroked the sword. In an instant, many gleaming swords of blitzing thunder surrounded his body, forming a protective barrier of swords. Those swords of blitzing thunder surrounded him at the center of the barrier. Each sword unleashed an astonishing divine being of the Great Path, annihilating everything. At the same time, the shadows approached the cultivator. It was as though there were many images of Swordmaster of Lihan attacking all at once, but the attacks were shut off by the swords surrounding the cultivator. Your ability is not bad. The cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall glanced at the shadows. In the sky, myriads of swords plunged downwards and sealed off the space. Everything was sliced into pieces by the swords. The shadows were obliterated too. Soon, only the actual body of the Swordmaster of Lihan was left standing. His sword was still stabbing into the protective barrier of the cultivator, unable to pierce through. The sword flickered, and the Swordmaster of Lihan tried to retreat. However, the opponent would not give him the chance to do so. The sword spirit plummeted and pursued its prey. The Swordmaster of Lihan had no choice but to receive this attack head-on. Boom! Numerous divine beams of light poured out from the sword spirit of the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall, crashing into the sword spirit of the Swordmaster of Lihan. Cracks appeared on the sword spirit of the latter. Even the body of the Swordmaster of Lihan was engulfed by the swords of blitzing thunder. The light of runes surged into his body. Go! The opponent did not cease attacking. His finger pointed forward, and the thunder sword spirit slashed forward, and kept ravaging the body of the Swordmaster of Lihan. Even if he were spared from death, he would be crippled. Show mercy! A voice sounded from afar. The swordsman in training from the Heavenly Sword Hall took a quick look in the distance, but he did not stop attacking. His sword continued to slash downwards. The Swordmaster of Lihan tanked the continuous attacks of the Great Path with his physical body and spiritual soul, but his sword did not break. Both man and sword were one. When the sword broke, the person would also perish. Buzz! The light of Renhuang shone, and a lotus flower descended, wrapping the body of the Swordmaster of Lihan within. The lotus flower emanated a rich life will. At the same time, the petals unleashed authority of the way, forming innumerable catastrophe swords, which then blocked the incoming sword spirit. The sword spirit returned to its master. The cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall raised his head and saw a group of people descending from the sky. The group of people then landed among the crowd below. Emperor Xia was the first to step forward. The lotus flower coiled around the body of the Swordmaster of Lihan, while the life will healed the injuries on his body. That was close, Emperor Xia exclaimed. Fortunately, Yi Futian had asked the Lord to take a look at the situation here. Otherwise, Lihan would be in danger. The Swordmaster of Lihan landed on the ground. He arched his back slightly and spat out a mouthful of blood. Sensing the life will in his body, he turned around and looked at the people who had arrived. Your Highness, he greeted, slightly surprised. Not only did he see Emperor Xia, but he even saw Yi Futian, as well as Xia Qingyuan soon after. He instantly understood everything. It seemed that the white-haired youth from back then had reached his level. Hence, he had also come here. Everyone, a chilly voice said before the Swordmaster of Lihan could catch up with the people who just arrived. Standing on the platform, the cultivator of the Heavenly Sword Hall, who was a Renhuang, stared at them while asking, "What do you mean? These people seem to be very powerful. They might be from the top forces as well." Moreover, there were more and more people coming. They were cultivators who followed Yi Futian here, including those from the Divine Palace and the Divine Swordly family. However, the intruders irritated the cultivators of Heavenly Sword Hall. A disciple of their Heavenly Sword Hall was exchanging blows with someone. So many powerful cultivators had come. What was their intention? Junior's name is Yi Futian. This is a senior of mine. Since the battle has concluded, please show mercy, Yi Futian said to the cultivator of the Heavenly Sword Hall, as he walked towards the Swordmaster of Lihan. Didn't you see that the battle has yet to end? In midair, the youth who defeated the Swordmaster of Lihan seemed annoyed. This was not a major issue. However, for so many powerful cultivators to come over, and for all of them to be from powerful forces from other realms, this made the cultivators of the Heavenly Sword Hall feel dissatisfied. Why did it seem as though these people had come over to threaten them? The victor has been determined. Friend, why must we fight to the death? Yi Futian asked as he raised his head. It was his choice to do so. How does this concern you? The youth in midair had a sharp gaze as he looked straight at Yi Futian down below. I owe Senior Lihan a debt of gratitude for instructing me in the past. His matters indeed concern me. Yi Futian then suggested. Sir, if you insist on fighting to the death, what if I battle you in his stead? Even to the death, the youth in midair asked. That is fine. Yi Futian nodded. All right, the youth agreed. Yi Futian looked towards the Swordmaster of Lihan and said, Swordmaster, please rest at the side for a while. Be careful. His sword spirit is very powerful, the Swordmaster of Lihan whispered. I know. Yi Futian nodded in response. Only then did Swordmaster of Lihan move to the side and secretly transmit his voice to Emperor Xia, asking, Your Highness, is he confident in winning? You should take care of your wounds first, Emperor Xia replied. Seeing that Emperor Xia looked calm, the Swordmaster of Lihan said nothing more and turned his attention to the battle. In the sky above, countless swords of blitzing thunder appeared. Upon each divine sword, there were bright runic lines. These runes emanated an astonishing authority of the way. Yi Futian had a sense of déjà vu. Back then, Bai Luli cultivated the life spirit carving spell scroll. If Bai Luli had cultivated it to such a level, it should be similar to the other party's cultivators. Such an attack would be even more domineering. Descend. The cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall's gaze swept downward like a sharp sword. He pointed his finger downward, and countless swords of blitzing thunder shot downwards in an instant. The swords of blitzing thunder destroyed everything in their path. Lightning flooded the space. the members of the Divine Palace, the members of the Divine Swordly family, as well as many other powerful cultivators looked towards Yi Futian. They were all more concerned as to what level of ability Yi Futian had currently reached. There would be no suspense to this battle. Although the Heavenly Sword Hall of all creations was renowned as the top swordsmanship force in the 9 realms, how could this disciple have any chance of winning against Yi Futian in battle? If his opponent knew of Yi Futian's battle records in the Divine Palace, he would not have agreed to this battle. Seeing the countless swords of blitzing thunder descending upon him, Yi Futian raised a finger and pointed it to the sky. Beams of divine light radiated. With a crackling sound, the countless swords of blitzing thunder were directly shattered and turned to dust. Yi Futian did not continue to attack. He merely raised his head and looked at the cultivator of the Heavenly Sword Hall in midair, asking, "Will this be enough?" He did not attack. Before entering God's relic, he did not want to offend a top force here. He had only come over to bring the sword master of Lihan away. As he looked at the disappearing swords of blitzing thunder, the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall in midair was stunned. His attack was destroyed in just one blow. He extended both hands. His expression was solemn. He had turned much more serious. Before this, Yi Futian regarded the sword master of Lihan as his senior, so the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall did not take him seriously. He even belittled Yi Futian. However, from their brief encounter just now, he could tell that the swordsmanship of this white-haired youth was very profound. His sword spirit let out a thunderous wail. Streaks of lightning flashed past. In the sky, countless gigantic swords of blitzing thunder appeared, covering the sun. Runes of Great Path were imprinted on every single gigantic sword. The intense sword will seem to want to destroy the entire space. When countless swords appeared in midair at the same time, their destructive power was startling. Boom! A brilliant divine sword appeared on top of Yi Futian. The great path in his body resonated and transformed into a furnace, forging a divine sword, which became one with his body. When the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall in midair saw this scene, he pointed his finger downwards. In the sky, endless destructive swords of blitzing thunder descended from above. This attack was even wilder and fiercer than the previous attack. Boom! 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 In an instant, myriads of swords fell from the sky and crashed down towards Yi Futian. The swords did not even have an organized attack pattern. More and more swords filled the space, burying Yi Futian within. However, everyone could see that the sword that enveloped Yi Futian's body was still shimmering with dazzling divine beings. Endless will of great paths surged and fueled the divine beings, causing them to be indestructible. When the myriads of swords closed in on Yi Futian, the light of runes of great path transformed into a destructive power, but it could not cleave Yi Futian's sword veil. Yi Futian did not attack. He merely remained on guard. However, the opponent could not break through his defense. The expression of the youth standing in midair changed. The scene before him made him doubt his own swords. The sword master of Lihan was dumbfounded too when he saw what happened. Then, he was emotional and lamented, "I'm old." He still remembered the adamant youth who intruded Lihan Heaven and challenged the disciples of Lihan Heaven to a battle. The youth used to be young and presumptuous. Now the youth had changed. A shocking sword flash erupted from the sword forged by the furnace in Yi Futian, destroying all the gigantic swords of blitzing thunder, which had closed in on him. However, Yi Futian's sword disappeared along with the opponent's swords. "Your attacks are extraordinary. I am honored to have experienced them," Yi Futian commented as he stared at the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall. "Why don't we stop here?" The corner of the cultivator's mouth twitched as he was at a loss for words. The surrounding onlookers were speechless as well. Extraordinary attacks? The cultivator of the Heavenly Sword Hall did not even break through Yi Futian's defense barrier. Could the former skill really be called extraordinary? However, Yi Futian clearly had no intention to fight. Otherwise, he would not have just defended passively. At this moment, everyone could tell that this white-haired youth was very strong. At the very least, he was stronger than the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall. He might even be more powerful. The battle here attracted the attention of many people. One by one, many cultivators of all creations gathered. Was the swordsman in training of the Heavenly Sword Hall in conflict with a swordsman in training from another realm? Could it be that someone was here to challenge the Heavenly Sword Hall? From the looks of it, the cultivator of Heavenly Sword Hall was being suppressed. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1594 The Power of All. 1594 The power of all. The swordsman temple cultivator could naturally also see that the disciple who attacked was not an equivalent opponent of Yi Futian. Moreover, this person was also a swordsman in training. Where do you train? The cultivator of the Heavenly Sword Hall looked at Yi Futian and asked. The junior practiced swordsmanship for a while in Taishian Mountain of the Higher Heavens realm, and also practiced swordsmanship in the Divine Palace. Yi Futian responded. Although the Heavenly Sword Hall was a force with the power of all, how could the name of the Divine Palace be something that he had never heard of? The Higher Heavens realm had the Holy Land, and the Divine Palace in the 9 realms belonged to the more famous force. In contrast, although Taishian Mountain was a known entity, its presence was not as strong as the Divine Palace. However, according to rumors, Taishian Mountain's Lord Taishian had broken through the Runhuang's 9 realms. While amongst those who came and stood behind Yi Futian, there should be the cultivators of Taishian Mountain and the Divine Palace. They would have come from the forces of the Higher Heavens realm. The previous matter ends here. The Heavenly Sword Hall is not going to investigate in the previous battle, the cultivator of the Heavenly Sword Hall said. In fact, he was no longer investigating the matter involving the Sword Master of Lihan, as it was a small matter. However, it was a mere issue of pride. In reality, they didn't care too much about the life and death matter of the Sword Master of Lihan. However, if you also practice swordsmanship, you can discuss swordsmanship with the people that practice within the Heavenly Sword Hall. The other party continued to talk big, from sword cultivation from the upper realm, to giving no qualms about the Sword Master of Lihan leaving. He took on a position that made the Heavenly Sword Hall appear feeble. Even on the eve of entering the relics, the Heavenly Sword Hall entered the relics with defeat, so it was certainly not very nice. Alas, things did not turn out the way they wanted. They were unable to compete with the other forces in the relics. Everyone who heard this statement understood the intentions of the Heavenly Sword Hall. Such a defeat would end here. The pride of the number 1 force of swordsmanship force within the 9 realms had to be maintained. This junior swordsmanship is still shallow, and naturally, it is not as good as the Heavenly Sword Hall. I therefore believe we no longer have to compete further, Yi Futian said. It was not a fear of a battle, but he just did not want any trouble. If the Heavenly Sword Hall truly got involved, could he guarantee his win? Even if he managed to sweep through the entire force, after today, the matter would not come to an end either. Excessive self-humility is rude, the strong swordsman said coldly. As Yi Futian was far better than the disciple lost, but said that his opponent's swordsmanship was extraordinary. Instead, he chose not to carry on the fight. What was he trying to do? Was he expressing disdain to fight with the disciples from the Heavenly Sword Hall? Yi Futian pondered for a moment, then saw a figure stepped forward from behind him. He said, I am from the Higher Heavens realm, Divine Swordly family's Li Sun. I am currently a disciple of the Higher Heavens realm's swordsmanship. I have long heard of your famous name. To meet you today, why don't I instead test your swordsmanship? What do you think? The swordsman cultivator glanced at Li Sun, the Divine Swordly family of the Higher Heavens realm, a family of swordsmen. It was unexpected that he would step forward. The people around showed a hint of anticipation. Heavenly Sword Hall versus the Divine Swordly family. Would this be a showdown in this holy land? Elders, let me, your disciple, take on the challenge. Amongst the cultivators of the Heavenly Sword Halls, a figure walked and paid his respects to the leaders of the Heavenly Sword Hall. The Divine Swordly family's reputation had long been heard and talked about. With this opportunity, it would be an exceedingly rare opportunity to go against the Divine Swordly family. Okay. The leader of the Heavenly Sword Hall nodded. The swordsman in training took a step forward, and landed on the void. Sword will roared around him. Li Sun did the same and walked forward. His sword spirit exploded in a flash and enveloped the heavens. A violent swordsmanship aura was formed around the body of the two people. In the city of relics, many people in the distance could felt the battle happening. They looked towards the battlefield. Everyone flicked towards it and moved closer. Among them, there were many people with top forces. The Heavenly Sword Hall's representative had a sword soul that was like a meteorite sword, albeit it being a really huge sword and extremely heavy. When the sword strikes, the world was engulfed in a massive roar that spread far and wide. Countless meteorites fell from the sky, and it made people feel extreme pressure on their bodies. Li Sun also summoned the spirit of his sword. A divine sword fell down from the sky above. It was an extremely overbearing sword. As both swords interlocked and battled one another, they both did not compete in a way that suggested that this was an exchange of skills. It seemed more like an actual battle instead. Boom! Two terrifying sword wills approached each other. When the soul of the sword locked on, countless meteorites fell from the sky once again. The meteorite sword was extremely heavy, suffocating the space, and suppressed the broken void. Li Sun's sword counteracted against them as it shattered the falling meteorites that were falling. The sky was turned into a doomsday scene, and it looked extremely terrible. The suffocating pressure in the air turned into a violent storm. The two cultivators stood in the middle of the storm. Their swords collided with each other. Futian glanced up at the land above him and saw that two were still emitting extraordinary amounts of swordsmanship from their bodies. There seemed to be an imaginary sword shadow emerging, and there was a spiritual soul blending into the swords. The sword's aura was stronger and stronger, tearing everything in the void. The great path shattered and collapsed, and a brilliant light curtain caused by the swordsmanship swept outwards, smoothing out all existence. The endless falling meteorites were smashed into nothingness, with the countering swordsmanship also annihilated in the void. The two quickly retreated at the same time, and returned to their original positions on both ends. Li Sun groaned, and his body felt a little heavy. On the mouth of the Heavenly Sword Hall's cultivator, blood seeped out. He was apparently injured as well. It seemed that the Heavenly Sword Hall still hadn't been able to restore their lost pride from the previous battle. It was obvious that this battle was not in their favor as well. However, in Futian's view, the Divine Swordly family gained no advantage in this battle. This was, after all, a swordsmanship family home. The number of cultivators was limited. Li Sun was already the core figure of the family, and there should be more disciples within the Heavenly Sword Hall, who were definitely more powerful. They did not participate, as they probably were preparing for God's relic instead. The Heavenly Sword Hall's swordsmanship quenches the soul of the sword. Sure enough, there is something unique about it, and I have learned much. Li Sun did not have a proud look and gestured at the other. Why not? Is this the end of this exchange? Let's stop here. Over on the Heavenly Sword Hall's side, a few figures walked forward. Stop here? 2 defeats, and that was not good at all. Today, it felt like people were coming over to smash their reputation. This trip was originally for the relics. Any further battle for a higher ranking must happen after the relics, for it doesn't make much sense right now. If the Heavenly Sword Hall wants to redeem itself and defeat Futian, it may not be that easy. After all, at the Battle of the Divine Palace, he was the one that defeated the proud sons of heaven from the higher heavens realm. If the Heavenly Sword Hall must fight, I am afraid that only your strongest disciples will stand a chance against him. Li Sun spoke, and his words made the glances of the Heavenly Sword Hall's cultivators stagnate. Then, their eyes turned around, and they looked at Futian once again. In the Battle of the Divine Palace, he defeated the proud sons of heaven from the higher heavens realm. Hearing the tone from Li Sun's speech, he was likely one of them who was defeated. However, though he lost to Futian, he was nevertheless highly respectful toward him. This meant that he indeed deliberately suppressed his own strength, and did not give it his all against the disciples of the Heavenly Sword Hall. The search for the gods' relics. Hidden treasures indeed. The senior cultivators in the Heavenly Sword Hall looked at Futian and said, A junior who appeared by accident actually turned out to be one of the top cultivators in the world. In this case, your collision shall then be left here within God's relics. These elders would not participate in the fight. However, they still wanted a collision to happen. The battlefield within God's relic. The Heavenly Sword Hall will just leave it like that? Why did the cultivator hail as the next in line leader of the Heavenly Sword Hall not participate? A voice came out from nowhere. It was from a distant figure standing above the void. He gave off a weird but wonderful vibe, albeit rather illusory. He appeared to be there, yet not there, all at the same time. The Heavenly Sword Hall cultivators looked towards him. One of the top forces in Wuxia realm, Illusion Island. They were naturally familiar. If your disciples from the Illusion Island want to see him fight, you will see it in the relics, a Heavenly Sword Hall cultivator said. This is not necessarily the case. Some of the others here will most likely want to go and challenge him right now. The person from the Illusion Island smiled and looked at the others. Amongst them, there was also another top force, also from the Wuxia realm. This person standing above the void gave off a strong sense of killing intentions. No strangers should be able to enter this space. No one should be able to get close to them, within a radius of their lands. If they did, a killing gas field around the space would be activated. It was an extremely terrible setup. People who got too close to it would feel a shortness of breath, feeling like they could die at any time. There was, however, a special area in Wuxia realm, which was called the Slaughtering World. Those people who come from the slaughtering had strong killing intentions, and were generally viewed as extremely dangerous. When they enter the relics, they will set off a storm of blood, kill off the 9 realms, and carry out a mass massacre. The cultivator of the Heavenly Sword Hall looked at them, and the people in the slaughtering world were indeed a headache. However, when they entered God's relics, it would only be the disciples of the Heavenly Sword Hall who would face the practitioners of the slaughtering world. All from the 9 realms would face them together. The others and I shall bid farewell. Futian retreated as he paid his respects to the people from the Heavenly Sword Hall. When he left, he looked at Illusion Island and the cultivator in the slaughtering world. From both forces he felt it. There was a very unusual atmosphere surrounding them. It was as if the people in Illusion Island were unreal, and the people in the slaughtering world were dangerous. They were merely one of the few top forces in Wuxia realm. There were also the Solar Realm, Shadow Realm, Emperor Star Realm, Hidden Land Realm, Mountain Realm, and the strongest of them all, the Central Emperor Realm. One could only imagine how bloody this tour of God's relics would be. How does the Sword Master feel? Futian asked the Sword Master of Lihan as they left. I'm okay, nothing of the matter, Sword Master of Lihan said with deep emotions in his heart. After so many years, he had cultivated himself and reached new heights. Li Sun was also now a proud son of heaven. One could only imagine how glorious it was to be in his position, with a few strong cultivators around him, walking alongside him. Here, I have 2 fruits of the way. The Sword Master can take it, and can also be used to impact the Renhuang Plain. Futian took out 2 fruit of the way, namely the sword and the life fruit of the way. The Sword Master of Lihan looked at Futian. He was different from Xiaqing Yuan. Xiaqing Yuan and Futian had experienced a lot together. Naturally, there was no need to be polite with one another, but this fruit was especially precious to him. I have a lot of them, Futian said with a smile. Sword Master of Lihan said nothing and then took it. Sword Master's cultivation is already very high, but there are some shortcomings in some aspects. The fruit of the way can make up for it. If there is a chance in the relics, I will also help the Sword Master, Futian said. The Sword Master of Lihan had helped him before, so he would try his best to help the Sword Master of Lihan make a breakthrough in his realm and cultivate to become a Renhuang. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Among them, Long Chen was its unquestioned leader, as his strength had reached the peak of the Demon Saint. He was only a step away from being Demon Emperor. After this expedition, he would become the demon emperor. Many cultivators of the dragon gods followed behind him, but there was a figure that seemed out of place. He stood with the demon emperor of the dragon gods. The young man was clad in something pitch black. It was as if he was covered by a dark armor. His build was hefty and full of domineering spirit. Just that temperament alone was enough to stop one's breath. "I'm going out," the youth said. "Are you going to find him?" The demon emperor of the dragon gods next to him looked at the youth. The young man nodded. He had heard from the people of the dragon gods claiming that he was now cultivating at Futian mountain in the upper heavens realm, and that he had had an adventure at the divine palace. If he went over to Futian mountain's camp area, he should be able to find out some news about him. "You don't plan to stay with us?" asked the demon emperor of the dragon gods. This guy was truly loyal to Futian. After following the demonic dragon in cultivation for so long, his relationship with the dragon gods still seemed less than familiar. The youth was obviously Yusheng. He did not respond. "Come on. I'll take you," the demon emperor of the dragon gods said. It seemed that he was worried about Yusheng's safety. However, it was because of Futian's behest that he took Yusheng to cultivate with the dragon gods. At the time, Futian and Gudonglu were considered to be the two most likely to change the political landscape of the heavenly mandate realm, so the dragon gods were glad to grant this one favor to Futian. In addition, Yusheng was extremely powerful, so he was greatly valued by the demon dragon, who had been teaching him cultivation deep in Longyuan. Compared with the time when he first entered Longyuan, Yusheng was not the person he once was. Sometimes it seemed that he was a little different than he was before, but as for the specifics, he could not really say. It was just a curious feeling in general. Together, a group of people came toward this way. The demon emperor of the dragon gods looked up and saw it was the group led by Zhu Yan, the demon emperor. His son Zhu Zhao was also there. They, too, had dealings with Futian, and Zhu Yan, the demon emperor, had helped Futian before. "Good idea." The demon emperor of the dragon gods nodded, and then flickered away. On the other side, other cultivators came along as well, and they were the cultivators of the Sky Demon Court. The Peacock Demon Emperor was also among them. He was followed by Kong Xian. On the way there, they encountered the cultivators of the Divine Elephants, which made quite an impression on the Demon Emperor of the Dragon Gods. It seemed that Futian had an extensive network in the demonic realm, and he was acquainted with many parties. At this time, where Futian was located, Lord Taishian opened his eyes and said to Futian, who was a distance away, "Many demon tribes from the heavenly mandate realm are coming. I think they are coming for you." Futian, who was cultivating, stood up and looked up into the distance. Soon he saw a mighty group of people coming this way. There were many parties with all sorts of cultivators, and he saw many familiar faces. Yusheng, Kong Xian, Zhu Zhao, and many elders had all arrived. Yusheng stepped out and walked directly toward Futian. He towered over Futian, who had to raise his head slightly to meet his eyes. Stepping forward, Futian reached out and slapped Yusheng on the shoulders. But Yusheng's body was firmly rooted like a tower. It didn't move even a little bit. "How have you been these few years cultivating at the Dragon Gods?" Futian asked with a smile. "Do you want to try?" Yusheng asked. Futian's smile froze, looking confused. He looked at Yusheng and spat out, "Get the hell away." Yusheng then grinned and said to Futian, "I've made great progress these few years. I've already stepped into nirvana. You think your wings are strong now?" Futian glared at Yusheng, knowing that he had teased him in jest, but still, he would like to punch him. However, whether or not he could succeed in hitting him was questionable. Yusheng could take quite a beating in a fight. Futian hadn't seen anyone who could take a beating like Yusheng, and he was absolutely unmoved when he took the beating. However, if Yusheng caught someone, it would be something quite serious. This had happened many times before, and was a proven fact. Now, no one knew just to what extent had his physical body had evolved. Those who were following behind watched the interactions of the two, secretly exclaiming that the friendship between these two was extraordinary. Futian looked at the people behind Yusheng and said, "It's been a long time since I have seen you, elders. I heard that you are out of control in the upper heavens realm, the demon emperor of the dragon gods said. The news of the atrocities committed by Yi Futian at the divine palace had already reached the heavenly mandate realm, so they all knew. What realm are you now? The cultivators of the divine elephants asked. Yi Futian and the divine elephants had an unusual relationship. Even now in his body was the imperial bones of their ancestor, the divine elephant emperor of 10 directions. Nirvana, Yi Futian said with a smile. I know, I was asking, how far are you from Renhuang? Should be soon. Yi Futian smiled while everyone looked at him speechless. His cultivation was faster than most. Kong Xian was a little flabbergasted. Was he almost Renhuang? The speed of his cultivation had far surpassed hers, leaving her behind. Peacock Demon Emperor, you are here too. Emperor Xia walked over, looking rather surprised when he saw the Peacock Demon Emperor. They were old neighbors, but they did not expect to see each other here. Aren't you here to join in the fun too? The Peacock Demon Emperor responded. Well, we can keep each other company. I was fretting about being bored, Emperor Xia said with a smile. Elders, please sit down, Yi Futian greeted. With so many people around, he didn't know who to talk to first. No, Yu Sheng wanted to come over, so we walked with him here. Afterward, when you enter the god's relic, you might have to face powerful opponents from all sides. If the need arises, we could join forces to form a united front against the others. Of course, if there are conflicts between us, remember to be merciful, said the demon emperor of the dragon gods. After all, once they entered the god's relic, anything could happen. I understand. Yi Futian nodded. Well, we will go over there first. The cultivators of the dragon gods left, and many others nodded slightly toward Yi Futian. They soon left one after another. In the central imperial realm, there was another large group traveling. On the journey, they frequently met up with others who were also going in the same direction, the city of the ruins. At this time, in the middle of this vast crowd, there was a woman with outstanding beauty, whose spirit was hard not to take notice. Her eyes were closed as if cultivating. Sitting beneath her was a giant black-winged condor, whose wings spread out to cover the sky, shielding the sun and sailing with the wind. We are almost at the city of the ruins, Black-winged Condor said, his eyes shining. How do you know? The woman asked, her eyes still closed. She didn't think he had ever been to the central imperial realm. I told you my mind is linked with my master. Presently, he is in the city of the ruins. You only have one master, me, the woman said coldly. Black-winged Condor wanted to speak some more, but it saw the woman open her eyes, and then a faint murderous intent enveloped the Black-winged Condor. There was once a woman as arrogant and unreasonable as you, and she was a princess, the Black-winged Condor said. And? The woman asked nonchalantly. And she was particularly well behaved in front of my master, the Black-winged Condor replied. Xiaqing Yuan, who was far away at the city of the ruins, sneezed. Then, what do you want to say? The murderous intent shrouded the Black-winged Condor. This B***Stard was really asking for it now. Without his daily beating, he soon returned to be the punk that he was. My master looks amazing, and countless women are crazy about him. He is greatly talented, and no one can match him. Those genius guys you are talking about are not even worthy of polishing shoes for my master. His light is more dazzling than the sun. Wherever he walks, legends about him spread. In short, you better fix your relationship with me now, like offer an apology or admit a mistake. Otherwise, after you see my master, you will not be able to extricate yourself, and I will not be there to help you, the Black-winged Condor said. He proudly raised his head. The woman, green in the face, said coldly, You are so shameless. Does your master know? Black-winged Condor said indignantly. There was once a demon princess, beautiful and proud, just like you, and later. Bang. He hadn't even finished speaking when the woman finally lost her patience and hit him on the head with a punch. So the Black-winged Condor glided freely in the air. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. 1596 The Return. 1596 The Return. In the city of the ruins, cultivators were still coming one after another. At the moment, a group of people entered the city of the ruins. They were from the Yuanyang realm, one of the realms belonging to the outer region of the imperial realm. Similar to the Tianhe realm, it was not too far away from the central imperial realm, and was covered within the boundary of the central imperial realm. One could have said that the Yuanyang realm was actually a branch of the superpower that was the imperial realm. Many years ago, a super powerful pillar of a figure emerged from the Yuanyang realm, who was its region lord. Later, he was not satisfied with the Yuanyang realm alone, so he warred and conquered all that was in his sight. He eventually arrived at the central imperial realm. Once there, he was a force to be reckoned with. He was the founder of the Yuanyang clan, which was now the top clan of the central imperial realm. It dominated the area. When the family first came from the lower worlds, they did not have great numbers. Thus, Emperor Yuanyang absorbed cultivators from the lower world, but still did not abandon his control over the Yuanyang realm. He continued to absorb cultivators from the Yuanyang clan. Now, many years later, the Yuanyang clan had grown into a superpower in the central imperial realm. Bamboo Emperor was a Run Huang from the Yuanyang realm. He had started his own clan in Yuanyang realm. They had also come to the city of ruins to fight for an opportunity for their younger progeny. The daughter of the Bamboo Emperor Zhu was greatly gifted with talent. While she was cultivating in the Yuanyang realm, she was already well known. She once cultivated at Yuanyang Palace. The palace lord of Yuanyang Palace was from the Yuanyang clan in the imperial realm. Here we are. In front of the group, the Bamboo Emperor said, Yuanyang Palace should have already arrived, so let's go there. As long as they were in contact with Yuanyang Palace, the Yuanyang clan would send someone to bring some of them into God's relic. Many cultivators had their own ways of entering God's relic. The Bamboo Emperor from the Yuanyang realm was no exception. Everyone nodded. The group continued to sail across the void, heading toward the city of the ruins. Are they going to Yuanyang Palace? In the crowd, Black Wind Condor's eyes were swollen. He blinked and said, My master is already in the city of the ruins and knows that I am coming. If my master takes you into the ruins, and you serve my master well, he will make you as happy as a lark. The woman glanced down at Black Wind Condor and said, It seems that I was too easy on you. There will be many other cultivators on this trip into the city of the ruins. It would be useless to keep you around. It's much better if we just roast you and eat you for a meal. The Black Wind Condor shrunk his head and whispered, How cold. After all, we have been kind of intimate. Don't think I'm reluctant to kill you. A murderous intention permeated throughout Zhu Qi's body. When that bastard met her, he was accustomed to talking trash. He often teased and flirted with her, so she tamed him and made him her mount. The indisputable truth was that the Black Wind Condor was very powerful. Even though his state was not superior to hers, he had some extremely unusual means. She was from a higher realm, but he often made her suffer loss, and was much more battle-worthy than even the pure-blooded dragon. So, she let the Black Wind Condor be her training partner to sharpen her combat power. The Black Wind Condor was indeed competent and showed his power. The only issues were that trashy mouth of his, and he seemed to ask for a beating all the time. Now she had found out he had a master. This bastard was so shameless, so how serious could his master be? He also dared to call himself as handsome beyond word and talented without a match. He was truly shameless. As you please. I will wait for my master to pick me up. After you get to know my master, try to control yourself, and don't get too deep into it. If you ask me for help, you'll lose face. Unable to escape, the Black Wind Condor could only grumble and admit defeat for the time being. But he had already informed Yi Futian. The two were connected psychically. Yi Futian knew his location and would come pick him up. It didn't take long for the Bamboo Emperor to find the place where the cultivators from the Yuanyang realm had gathered. The palace lord of Yuanyang Palace had come in person. Many of the cultivators from the Yuanyang realm converged in one area. This area was most closely tied to the superpower behind the Yuanyang realm, the Yuanyang clan. The Yuanyang clan naturally had received the prophecy. Any principalities that had received the prophecy could take its people into God's relic. There was no limit to the number of people who could enter, as long as their realm was below Renhuang. If one wanted to bring a legion, they could, but all the principalities kept good control over the number of people and allotted some spaces for their direct reports. The Yuanyang clan naturally gave the Yuanyang realm many spaces and allowed Yuanyang Palace to choose their people. At this time, the group led by the Bamboo Emperor descended. Many people acknowledged their arrival. The Bamboo Emperor has arrived. Everyone came here so quickly. The Bamboo Emperor saw the presence of several Renhuang from the Yuanyang realm. All of them were top figures in the Yuanyang realm. Now they were here with the best of the Saint Plains from their respective forces. Zhu Qi. Several youths looked at Zhu Qi. They had followed Zhu Qi to cultivate in Yuanyang Palace, so they knew each other. Let's go there and let them know first, the Bamboo Emperor said. He kept going forward. Because of the large number of people, a temporary palace was built. It was also the current location of the palace Lord of Unhanging Palace. Black Wind Condor followed quietly behind, but there was some excitement in his heart. His master was already there. He had not seen his master for years and greatly missed him. He also did not know what had happened to Little Princess and Little Peacock. Was the little princess's temper still foul? He didn't know if Master Yu had arrived or not. Yi Futian had come after having received the intention from Little Condor. This time, he didn't bother Lord Taixian or Sky River Great Elder. He had been troubling both of them in various matters before, but not this time. They were now with Emperor Xia and Peacock Demon Emperor. Peacock Demon Emperor had previously looked over Little Condor. When he heard that he was coming, they decided to come along. In the direction of the temporary palace, Bamboo Emperor was chatting with other Renhuangs. Zhu Qi and Black Wind Condor stood to the side. Black Wind Condor said, "My master is here to pick me up. I have to go." Zhu Qi turned her head to look at him. Could it be that this jerk was not lying? Does he really have a master? And it was not just some figment of his imagination? "I know you will miss me, but I already have a master," Black Wind Condor said. "Is that so?" Zhu Qi gave him a cold look. "I want to see what kind of master can raise such a shameless beast like you." Black Wind Condor blinked his eyes and replied, "Okay, but don't regret it and control yourself." As he was speaking, he swaggered his way toward the periphery. His head was raised high up on his neck. He felt quite majestic. Zhu Qi sneered at him, but she followed behind Black Wind Condor. She wanted to see for herself. They soon arrived at the periphery. In the distance, they saw a group of people waiting in front. The one leading the group had a head of white hair like snow, and was striking in appearance. He looked gentle and elegant. Zhu Qi was shocked by what she saw. The man was truly stunning with an eye-catching appearance. The man with white hair, isn't he beautiful? Did I lie to you? Black Wind Condor looked at Zhu Qi, who was next to him. Zhu Qi snorted. Although he looked good, the kind of servant he had reflected the kind of master he was. This beast was shameless. How much better could his master be? Black Wind Condor flapped its wings and created a gorgeous arc as he came in front of Yi Futian. He said, "Master, I have missed you to death all these years." As he was speaking, he made a gesture as if to pounce upon him. "Get away." Yi Futian violently shuddered. He hadn't seen him for quite a few years, so there was no telling what he was playing at. Black Wind Condor stopped in his tracks and shakily smiled. He looked at Yi Futian's side and asked, "Is the second master also here?" "Princess Peacock and Princess Qingyuan, both of your majesties are here." Black Wind Condor wanted to say something more. When he saw Emperor Xia and Peacock Demon Emperor, he didn't dare talk flippantly. He just stood there on his best behavior. "You are still alive," Xia Qingyuan coldly remarked. Black Wind Condor's wings stiffened. His large eyes looked at Xia Qingyuan while sneaking a glance at Emperor Xia, who was beside her. He decided to keep quiet for the time being. Yi Futian's eyes went past Black Wind Condor and looked at Zhu Qi, who was behind him. This woman was likely the one Black Wind Condor was talking about. He put his hands together and bowed slightly. "Thank you for taking care of Little Condor these past few years. I am here to take him back." Is he your beast? Zhu Qi asked Yi Futian. Although she had formed a prejudice against him, because of Black-winged condor, he seemed to be polite enough. Perhaps it was carefully disguised. Yi Futian nodded. Zhu Qi looked at Yi Futian and said, Black-winged condor once disrespected me. He was subdued by me and surrendered to me. Now I am his rightful master. It seemed that she did not want to return Black-winged condor so easily. This was also the real reason why Black-winged condor asked Yi Futian to take him home. The woman refused to release the condor. Yi Futian glared at Black-winged condor. It seemed that he had greatly exaggerated their relationship as partners. You jest, my friend. Little Condor and I are linked with our minds. Otherwise, I would not have known that he was here. Yi Futian said, If he has offended you in the past few years, I would very much like to compensate you for your trouble. No party lasts forever, Black-winged condor said, looking at Zhu Qi. On the account that we have been acquainted, do you want to leave with me and enter the ruins for trial with my master? Did I say you could leave? Zhu Qi swept a glance at the Black-winged condor and looked back at Yi Futian. This beast has offended me way too many times. I can't let him leave like this. Yi Futian frowned and cast a glance at Black-winged condor. He bowed slightly at Zhu Qi and said, If little Condor has offended you, I'm here to apologize for him. After he saluted, he looked at the Black-winged condor and said, Let's go. As he was speaking, he turned and started to walk away. Hey, where do you think this place is? Several figures came from the void. All of them were from Yuanyang Palace. Their momentum was astonishing. They raced toward Yi Futian to shroud him within. Yi Futian stopped to reply. I didn't intend to start a dispute, but this beast is my partner. I have to take him with me. He continued to walk away, saying, Goodbye. Humph. There was a cold snort sound heard. Several figures walked toward Yi Futian at the same time. Zhu Qi also released the breath from her body. She wanted to see for herself the true strength of Black-winged condor's master. The strapping young man in black armor next to Yi Futian suddenly moved. He turned around, took a step forward, raised his fist, and threw a punch across the air. The whole space instantly seemed to solidify. The few people who were walking toward Yi Futian came to an abrupt stop, as an unparalleled punch descended from the air. Boom! The space seemed to be shattered by the suppression. Several people grunted. Their bodies flew straight back. Their faces were pale. The violent wind likewise shocked Zhu Qi backward as well. She was horrified. The man in black indifferently turned around and continued to follow the person in front of him, as if he had done nothing at all. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. (1597) Preparation. 1597 Preparation. How powerful! Zhu Qi secretly remarked, as she looked at the back of the man clad in black. Under the fist will the entire void had been suppressed. The people on their side who had acted were all top cultivators at Yuanyang Palace. Who dared to be so rude? An indifferent voice suddenly sounded. A group of people was walking from the side where the palace was located. Zhu Qi and the others turned their attention in that direction. It was the young palace lord of Yuanyang Palace, who was also the leader of the Yuanyang realm. It was said that he would cultivate at Yuanyang clan in the future, and his combat power was extremely fierce. The moment his words faded, a pattern appeared in the void where Yi Futian and the others stood off in the distance. A brilliant light sprinkled down. Large stone pillars descended from the sky, suppressing the void and blocking their way forward. At the same time he stepped forward. His appearance seemed indifferent. When the young man in black had dealt that blow from afar, he had already felt its great shocking power. However, Yi Futian and his group still moved forward. It was as if they didn't see any of his movements and continued their way out of there. The young palace lord of Yuanyang Palace took another step forward. More radiant patterns appeared above the sky. They were like sharp thorns hanging above them. The young man in black turned around and glanced at him. Bang! With a violent stump of the foot, the earth quaked. The young man in black walked over. Rumbling noises were heard. Every step seemed to shatter the void. The patterns collapsed and were pulverized. The face of the young palace lord suddenly changed. It only took the young man in black a few steps to walk in front of him. He raised his fist and blasted it out again without any fancy moves. A huge roar was heard as the fist suddenly morphed into a dark demonic dragon. Containing the power of the dragon god, it crushed through the void. A brilliant pattern appeared in front of the young palace lord of Yuanyang Palace. He tried to block the attack of the dark demonic dragon. However, broken crackling sounds were continuously heard as the fist will penetrated it. Boom! With a loud bang, the young palace lord of Yuanyang Palace was shocked by the force and flew backward. He groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. His breath was shallow, and his face was pale. The people around him were shocked by what they saw. Could he be that strong? The strength of the young palace lord was well known to them. In Yuanyang realm, he was known as the perfection existence below Renhuang. However, he had been knocked backward by a single blow, and had no strength to resist. How aggressive was this power? As Renhuang will of the way descended, the Yuanyang Palace Renhuang cultivators stepped forward. They wanted to approach, but the young palace lord raised his hand and stopped them. He said, "Let them go." Several Renhuang stopped and did not continue the chase. The city of the ruins is filled with strong cultivators. In comparison, our Yuanyang realm is insignificant. The other party has no intention of picking a fight. The young palace lord of Yuanyang Palace said, as he looked at the figure in black that was walking away. With such powerful fighting power, he was not some small character without renown. They were all city of the ruins for God's relic. Although he was the young palace lord of Yuanyang Palace that controlled the lower worlds, he knew his limit. The top forces of the upper worlds were a lot stronger than them. Strictly speaking, their reason for being there was merely the fact that they were from the Yuanyang clan of the imperial realm. Therefore, he didn't want to escalate the matter. Futian and his group moved further away. They soon disappeared and could no longer be seen. Zhu Qi looked at the disappearing figures. It took her a long time to regain her calmness. The young man in black was strong. In fact, he was the strongest person in St. Plain that she had ever seen. The young palace lord was blasted away by a single punch. Previously, the Black Wind Condor had called the man in black second master. Since there was a second, there had to be a first. Who could that be? It was likely the man at the center, and the master of the Black Wind Condor. It was the young man with white hair. Because of the trash-talking by the Black Wind Condor, her initial impression of Futian had not great. To have such a demonic beast, the master was probably not someone of great quality. The moment she thought of it, Futian had been polite and not rude at all. He appeared elegant. Judging from the dominance of the young man in black, one could imagine that his talent was very strong. Could it be that the shameless bragging of Black Wind Condor was true? Just who was his master? When Futian and his men returned to their station, he turned around to look at the Black Wind Condor. Seeing Futian's smiling eyes, Black Wind Condor shrunk his head. Speaking in an extremely obsequious tone, he said, "Master, what do you command?" "I'm thinking that it's about time to find a new demonic beast to serve me," Futian whispered. "Don't, master. Black Wind Condor is loyal and honest. Although I've been outside, I always thought of returning to master all the time." Black Wind Condor had been away for a few years. Not only had he not been degraded, but he had also increased its power. Cultivation was for ascension. His spiritual intelligence was fully opened. He thought it was no different from human beings. He was no longer the little demon from before. In the words of the Black Wind Condor, he was already a demonic saint, a big demon beast. "You were bullied outside but still thought about coming back." Futian looked at him and considered Zhu Qi's attitude. This guy had not lost his sharp tongue, and Zhu Qi's eyes didn't look right. Presumably she was dragged by this guy. Futian had every reason to believe that Black Wind Condor said a lot of things that should not be said. "In the future, if I get wind of you tarnishing my reputation, you will be handed over to Qingyuan for discipline," Futian said as he stared sternly at him. "Ah." Black Wind Condor let out a sigh and weakly glanced at Xia Qingyuan, who was beside him. He saw Xia Qingyuan look at him with a smile. Black Wind Condor felt a tingling in his scalp. That woman was too aggressive. He never wanted to fall into her hands. Enough of that, Futian said. Many days have passed, and the day of the opening of God's relic draws near. We should make all the necessary preparations, and try not to cause any trouble. Everyone had arrived. He had already met up with many people there, which made him happy. Now, all of their focus needed to be directed at the God's relic. The relic was under the control of Donghuang the Great. It only opened up once every 50 years, so it was the event of the 9 realms that affected the cultivators of all of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Many notable figures had converged upon the city of the ruins, which was not considered a large city. Everyone was waiting for the opening of God's relic. Without a doubt, once everyone had entered the relic, there would be bloody fights. Once the top cultivators of the 9 realms were in one place inside God's relic, it was easy to determine what would happen. Moreover, many principalities did not come by themselves. They also brought with them ruling forces from other realms. Some of those who had more people with them entered like a large army. For instance, among the forces that had recently arrived, the force that was closest to Futian, as far as he knew, the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty, had brought with them many cultivators. The Heavenly Mandate Dynasty ruled all the surrounding imperial dynastic forces. All the top cultivators of the Saint Plain, among those principalities, were called together to enter God's relic. Among all the cultivators, Tianyu was the strongest. As they waited, Futian quietly cultivated and continued to make preparations to enter God's relic. This time, he was about to face his peers, who were those cultivators at the peak of their power in all of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Futian was not alone in his preparation. The other cultivators from all sides were doing the same. In an area of the city of the ruins, occupied by the cultivators from the solar realm, there was a mountain. It was possessed by a force from the solar realm. The entire mountain had been transformed into the color of flames. Solar palaces had been cast upon the mountain. On the edge of the mountain, a group of people was standing and gazing at the movement of the people in the distant city of the ruins. Divine light from the sun was released from the bodies of those who were standing there. Even their eyes were like the eyes of the sun. They released the burning fire of the sun, as the sun's crown dazzled above their heads. Legend had it that the solar realm was transformed by a divine item, and could illuminate everything in the world. Those who were born in the solar realm inherently possessed extremely strong flame attributes. In the solar realm, some were from the bloodline of the legendary sun god. This time, after God's relic is opened, there will be cultivators from everywhere, such as the Imperial Realm, Mountain Realm, Ziwei Realm and Solar Realm, as well as many other extraordinary principalities. The man in the middle of the group said, "After entering God's relic, we should avoid catching too much attention. Of course, whatever is necessary for us to fight and get it must be done. This is an extremely important opportunity for all of you who had come." Yes, the people next to him slightly nodded. They were the most famous from this generation of the solar realm. Normally, their peers were nothing to them. But this time it was different. Those who were entering the relic were similar to them. In another area, inside a forged great hall, a middle-aged man wearing a starry robe looked down at the crowd below. He wore a crown. He was like an emperor on earth, majestic and regal. The people there were the cultivators from the top forces of the Ziwei realm. In the past, several outings to God's relic were the most violent battlefields, with many proud geniuses from all realms losing their lives there. The man with the crown, who was like an emperor in the midst of them, said to the cultivators, "Therefore, the journey to God's relics is also a battlefield where geniuses perish. Of course, your strength is unquestionable, but you will do well to remember that what you will be facing the existence of equal strength from all 9 realms. Thus, you are not allowed to treat this with any slightness or negligence. Any enemy who stands in front of you is worthy of your most serious attention." The people gathered there were all the best of the best. Yet among them, many were going to perish in God's relic. That was an unquestioned fact. Even so, they still had to progress, But he also had to remind them of the hidden danger. All major principalities were making final preparations for God's relic. Gradually, the once lively city of the ruins started to sober up and become somewhat oppressed. Everyone understood that they would be facing the most brutal trial in their lives, which could be said as the most severe trial within all of the 9 realms. The day had finally arrived. In the area above the city of the ruins, a mesmerizing divine light cascaded down from the sky. Sacred figures stood high above the sky. They were clad in armor and as magnificent as divine generals. They were from the empty imperial palace, known as the Divine Priests, and commanded by Donghuang the Great. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.